pre-planned crime and she was the intended victim. This doesn't look random at all.
We feel like that the person that's responsible for Holly Bobo's disappearance lives in this area just because of the terrain and where she was abducted from. You would have to know where you were going, the entrances, the exits, in order to do this.
This man was in camouflage. He knew exactly what he was doing. No ransom or anything. It's not about money. You may have somebody who is obsessed with her.
And they're stopping everybody who's going in and out of the area. They're trying to find somebody with a local connection who maybe doesn't realize that they saw something, and they're just hoping.
Who kidnapped 20-year-old Holly Bobo 1 week ago? In just a few hours, it will be tomorrow morning. And is that individual connected to another possible kidnapping attempt of a young woman just 45 minutes away last January? In mid-January, Heather Sullivan was going to her car at her home in a wooded area about 45 minutes from where Holly Bobo lives. When she went to her car to pick something out at 5:30 in the morning in the dark, a man came up and tried to grab her arm. She dropped the lantern she was holding, and it was the noise of that lantern that prompted her boyfriend, who was in the home, to say, "Is everything okay?" The individual ran away. We spoke earlier today with Heather Sullivan, and she told us that the police have re-interviewed her. They have asked her about that night. And when we asked Heather, "Do you think your incident is connected to Holly Bobo's abduction?" she said, "Yes, it could be. We don't live that far apart." Let's go back out to Rupa, who was at that very rainy vigil site in Tennessee, where things are getting underway just now. Rupa, tell us about the significance of this similar situation not that far away.
You know, Deborah, it's quite similar, actually. And this is what Heather Sullivan says as well. Not only is it 45 miles from where Holly Bobo was abducted just last week, it happened time frame-wise just a couple of months ago, mid-January. It's a tall, white male. That's how Heather Sullivan describes her perpetrator, her attacker. Also, she also lives in a home that's surrounded by a wooded area. So there are some similarities here. Now, she managed to escape, luckily for her.
All right. Pat Brown is a criminal profiler who has made it her life's work to get into the heads of people who do these kinds of things. Pat, how significant is this similar situation a couple of counties over from where Holly is located?
Well, Deborah, you certainly can't ignore something like that. I mean, we see people repeat MOs, and if these MOs are similar, that's going to go right up on the radar. But I think what everybody's having so much trouble with in this case is all the evasiveness. The evasiveness from the family, the evasiveness from the brother, the evasiveness from the police. And we're not getting answers to things that just seem like we should be able to get answers to, like, when was the 911 call made? Did the dogs find a trail into the woods? I mean, if her blood is out there spattered in somewhere, and it's her blood, which they're not going to tell us either, why wouldn't the dogs follow that trail to the woods? Then we also have the lunchbox problem. I mean, if you have somebody dragging a woman into the woods, why does her lunchbox, which should be in her hand, show up 8 miles away? I don't think she's going to be clutching it for 8 miles and walking through woods.
Do you think that's a red herring that the guy has planted?
You know, I think there's a lot of things about this case that we don't know. I don't know if there's a staged crime going on here. I don't know. We just don't have the information so that we can put things together and make sense. But I think it's extremely important for the family to come forth and be very open, and the police as well, because I think there's some people out there searching and searching, wanting to find Holly, and they're getting frustrated because they're thinking, wait a minute, maybe we're searching for no reason. And I don't think they want to think that way. I think they want to find Holly. I think they want to bring her home. I think they want to know if there's a true abductor so they can go out there and do their best. I think they need to just be a little bit more open and help everybody out here.
What does the prosecutorial point of view think? Paul Henderson is a deputy district attorney in San Francisco. You come from a different perspective when it comes to making a case stick. Are the police doing the right thing? Is the TBI doing the right thing in withholding virtually all information about this case?
Well, it's difficult to release all of the information because oftentimes the information that the police collect at a crime scene can be followed up by themselves that's unavailable for the public to follow up on. So, for instance, if those actually were blood splatters on the ground and there's DNA that's been collected, releasing that information out to the public can only serve to tip off suspected people that are in the community. So as they're collecting evidence and walking around in the woods and checking out maybe the license plate on the car that they found in the woods, that's not the kind of information that you want the public to have, because it doesn't help as you are following up on an investigation and trying to follow up with the prosecution subsequently.
Defense attorney Kirby Clemens, do you share that view?
To some degree, I do, but then at the same time, I have to say no. I think that there are times that you have to let certain things, blood splatter evidence. If it's her DNA, it's her DNA. Tell everybody. There's nothing else that's going to change. So there's some things they have to come forth with to help the public to go out and look. Like, what's a physical description of the guy that was seen by the brother and the same guy or the other guy that was seen trying to kidnap the other young lady? I think that's something the public should hear about so they can look.
And speaking of the evidence, the volunteers have been told they have a day of rest tomorrow. The volunteer will kick back, the volunteer search will kick back up into high gear over the weekend. But at this stage of the game, with the outrageous rainstorm that's going on as we're speaking, how much can anyone find? Howard Oliver, you're a forensic pathologist. You've been a medical examiner. At this stage of the game, is there anything left for the searchers to turn up?
There would probably be very little to turn up. The rain is going to dilute the trace evidence. Blood, even the spatter or any other spills of blood will soak up water and will burst open. So you'll lose evidence there. And plus, evidence will be washed away by the rain.
Let's talk about the evidence that they have found. One of the things that has allegedly been found, reportedly been found, is duct tape that had blonde hair on it. Might that be some of the best evidence out there that we know about?
That should be excellent evidence. There should be evidence on there from not only the victim, but possibly from the perpetrator.
And what about the blood evidence? Why wouldn't they be releasing the source of the blood?
The only reason I can think of is they're not through with their discovery on different aspects on checking the blood. Some of it may have been the perpetrator's blood. They may be following up on that. They have to compare the blood splatter with evidence they get from the victim's personal belongings.
And we don't know what
all the evidence is not in.
And we don't know what's happened to Holly. One possible speculation is that she is being kept by a mountain man in this wooded area. There doesn't seem to be any indication that we're aware of them coming out of the woods. With the kind of weather that's going on and the kind of weather that's forecast, what are her chances for being able to survive as a hostage in these adverse conditions?
Her chances are excellent. As long as she has water, the temperature and the rain in those conditions, she would still have an excellent chance.
Stacy from California, you've been holding for a long time, and we thank you for your patience. What's your comment?
Hi, Deborah. My concerns are the search dog. How many days can they pick up a scent, and will the rain wash away that scent?
At this point, Mr. Oliver, is it gone for the dogs?
It should be gone for the dogs.
All right. One of the things, Pat Brown, that I think all of us wonder is, could there be a connection between the case in January and very similar circumstances, and Holly's situation, and might there be other women who were similarly approached that we haven't heard about?
Well, you always want to go to the public and ask, have they had an experience like this? Because we often find that we do have women that come out and say, some guy did try to grab me, but I didn't, I just yelled at him and walked away, and I never thought of even reporting it to the police. So yes, we do want to know about that. And we also want to know about this whole issue about if she was taken into the woods, is there a way for a vehicle to even get her from in those woods and take her out of the woods? Because when we look at stalkers, I mean, it would be pretty weird for a stalker to come up the driveway, to come out of the woods and grab her and then take her to a vehicle. He'd more likely take her into the woods and do something terrible to her right there, and we would have already found that out. So there's a very confusing thing about the fact that there's no vehicle to take her to, and her body's not in the woods.
The family has been very vocal about the fact that the brother, because there was some discrepancy in the story, particularly early on, and the fact that he saw her being led away, and there was a time frame between that moment and the 911 call being made. Some have cast speculation that the brother might have had something to do with it. Would he have called the police if he in any possible way were involved?
Well, yes, I mean, that is something that people will do. Let's say, for example, some altercation occurred when she was leaving for school, and then there was a period of time before the 911 call where he could move her someplace and then come back home and then say she was abducted. I think that's why people are suspicious, and I think the family needs to come out and really help the public out with that so they can look for Holly. Nearly 7 days since Holly Bobo disappeared on her way to school. What are the chances that she will be found alive? We'll get into that after this.
The Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency has deployed their site imaging technology on the area waterways to see if we can develop some leads that way. Law enforcement is canvassing all the neighborhoods, and the volunteers are searching.
Everything on the banner goes brother of missing country stars cousin, missing country stars cousins, blood found. Everything seems to just focus so much on missing country stars relative rather than just putting up Holly Bobo missing. Put Holly's name on the banner. That's what I want to say. Not missing country stars cousin or brother of missing country stars cousin.